Good morning guys, welcome to today and to today's video. We are doing a Q&A. It has been a few months since our last one. The last one was done with Caleb. This one is just me and maybe Mila will make an appearance if she wakes up from her nap. But I hear you heated my coffee. I have like 2 sips left, but I'm gonna enjoy it and I'm gonna film this video for you guys. I asked, of course, on Instagram for you to send in some questions. Pretty much just about anything, motherhood, infertility, relationships, marriage, that kind of thing. And so I have a few to go through. I can see already a few that are pretty similar, and that one being, would you like to have another baby in the future? Are you already starting to think about the 3rd embryo? Have you started thinking about when you want to transfer your 3rd frozen embryo? So I will answer that one right off the bat, since I know that that is, yeah, just an interesting question, because we do have 1 embryo in the freezer still. So if you're new to our journey, my name is Ayla. My husband is Caleb. We have 2 daughters, Nova and Mila, and they have come to us in the most special, wonderful way through embryo donation or embryo adoption. So we did adopt 3 embryos several years ago now, and we've done 2 transfers with those embryos, which are our 2 girls. We have a whole history of infertility and IVF and transfers before all of this, but specifically 2 transfers that led us to the girls. And so we have 1 embryo in the freezer still, and yeah, so that's where these questions are coming from. Are we thinking about the transfer for that one? So Mila is just turning 6 months in like a few days, so it's definitely not like at the forefront of my mind or anything at all. Like, I'm purely happy to enjoy her because she is still a baby and everything. But of course, you know, the letter comes in the mail with the storage fee invoice saying you need to pay for another year's storage, and that's always a reminder to me, but like that's, you know, sitting and waiting for us. So I definitely have thought about it a little bit. I think we answered kind of in the last Q&A a little bit towards this question. But yeah, we're just gonna see how things go. I'm definitely not in any rush. I really feel like I want to just relish in this time with the 2 girls. Sometimes when you're pregnant, you can't like be as involved with like family activities, if that makes sense. So I kind of want a chance to, you know, be able to do those things just for a little bit. So I'm not in a rush for another transfer. But saying that, of course, it is still, you know, always in the back of my mind, of course. So I don't know if I have like a concrete plan for when the transfer would be. I'm thinking maybe it'll be a little bit more of a wait between Mila and the next transfer than it was with Nova and Mila's transfer. Nova was, what was she, like almost 18 months when we did do the transfer for Mila? So I probably am thinking I'll wait a little longer than that for this time, but nothing's set in stone. I have no idea. Now, of course, there are a few different like aspects when it comes to this 3rd embryo, and that is just like, we don't know what to expect. We don't know, you know, can't plan for it to work. We can't plan for it not to work. So it feels like this transfer is kind of heavy, if that makes sense, because it is the last embryo. And so it's a bit scary to think like of transferring and it not working and like being faced with that. That's pretty frightening. So in that aspect too, I'm not in a rush to transfer because I don't know if I'm ready for those emotions. I know that it's just going to be very like a heavy time when that time does come. There will be so many emotions going into it, so many nerves and stuff. So I just don't want to do that yet. But it is in our future. It is going to happen, a 3rd transfer. Oh, it was always the plan that we would transfer all 3 of these little embryos. So it is in the plan. I just don't know when, and it's not anytime soon. And then just on the note of embryo adoption, one more question. Have you started explaining to Nova about the process? Curious how you're doing this. So I have, in the way that I just like communicate it with her, and it's just like an open conversation because she's still quite young. We have a few like books that were given to Nova from our donor family, and so whenever we read those books, I read the little inscription inside. I talk to her, it's like a good prompt. I talk to her about how, and I'll use their names with her of course, but how they're so special to us, and give just like a simple little spiel about, you know, how she came to our family. But just really simple and no pressure on the conversation. It's just kind of like a little chat, and then we read the book. And it's nice because some of the books that they did give her some of her favorites, so it reminds me to have that conversation a little more often. I think she's getting a bigger understanding of the world just even now, so I don't think that it'll be too far off for us to like start incorporating bigger language or like a little more to the conversation. But for now it's just very simple and just talking about the donor family and who they are and how special they are to us, showing her pictures of when we visited them and talking about how we hope to visit them again soon and stuff like that. The basis for right now at her age is just to keep it as part of her language, as part of like the open conversation that's going in our house, and just so that none of this becomes, you know, a shock one day. It's just something that she's always known about her beautiful, wonderful self. We do have a couple like embryo adoption, embryo donation related books that I can try to link in the description box for you if you're curious. Did you ever, or even still, have an end point for the infertility journey no matter the outcome? Yeah, so Caleb and I have talked about this a little bit here and there. We haven't like come to any conclusions or anything, but and I did kind of, I think we went into detail in the last Q&A a little bit more, but essentially this last embryo will be, for on our hearts right now, will be our last embryo transfer potentially ever, because we just really feel like life, you know, we've given so much of our life to infertility and to IVF in the process that it's time for us to move forward. And so whether that embryo takes and becomes our third baby or it doesn't, we're leaning towards like that just being kind of the end of IVF related stuff. Now, I have no idea what the future holds. I don't know if I'll change my mind down the line. I don't know, you know, maybe in 10 years from now, like stars will align and there'll be a natural pregnancy. Like there's just no way of knowing anything, but we can only do what we can do, and that's focus on the here and now. And I just think that I'm really excited for this last embryo transfer when it does happen. But I do think that that's probably the last time I want to be doing needles, doctors, clinics, appointments. It's just been a lot. It's been a lot. And I just feel ready to, yeah, move on from that. Of course, after the next transfer. And that leads into the other question, baby related, is would you like to have another baby in the future? So I do in my heart feel like 3 babies is the number that I feel really good about, and just feels like the right amount of kids for our family. It's quite possible that 2 kids is what we're blessed with, and I'm very happy with that. I love my girls so much, and you know, just even having 2 kids is like mind-blowing to me. I can't, like, I'm still stopping myself in my tracks all the time, be like, Caleb, can you believe we have 2 kids? Honestly, for a few years there, I really doubted if it would happen, and so just the fact that it has is very fulfilling for me. Do you ever get lonely being a stay-at-home mom? This is a great question. I definitely do at times. There are some days where you're like, okay, I haven't had like an adult conversation in a while. I'm ready to speak to someone who's an adult. But I also feel like Nova's, like, her vocabulary's gotten a lot better lately, and she's like fun to talk to, and she's become like a little buddy that I get to like hang out with. So it feels a little less lonely in that sense, that like I'm not just talking like baby talk all day, like I am being able to, you know, talk to her. I do have a few close like mom friends, and I try to get together with them like every so often for play dates or even mom dates. This past weekend I had a mom date with my one friend, and we brought the babies along and went thrifting. So there's just like a lot of desire for me to like invest in that and to try my best to, you know, connect with other adults. And it's hard right now because, you know, ever since 2020 on, it's like more complicated. I had really hoped that I would, you know, be in all these like mom groups or like go to whatever, like library hangouts and stuff like that. That's actually how I met my good friend, is at one of those library like sing-along things, and then we reconnected months later. But so honestly, those things work. If you have the ability to like go to any of those things, try it out, because I actually met a friend there, which is so funny. I can be introverted and have a hard time kind of like putting myself out there. So motherhood for me has been a really good like icebreaker. Like if you see another mom and a kid at the park, like you already have so many things that you could talk about. So it's like a good segue to be able to be a little bit more social. Like you can start with, oh, like how old is your kid? And it's like easier to get things going, if that makes sense. Whereas before, like there wasn't as many places to meet like-minded people. So I just find that I've actually been able to make more friends since becoming a mom than actually before. It's kind of funny that way. Let me know if you relate to that. But what I can say about feeling lonely in your day-to-day is try to get out and do something, even if you're not like meeting up with anybody or anything like that, but just getting outside or going to the mall, like just having like tiny little social interactions, maybe with like the Starbucks drive-through person. Like those little interactions just kind of help you feel more like, okay, I am like an adult and I'm not just talking to kids all day. There's also FaceTime and communicating with people over social media and stuff, and being able to have like conversations ongoing. Caleb and I recently have been playing Words with Friends, so it feels like I'm kind of in a way communicating with him, because we've got like a little word back and forth thing going throughout the day. But yeah, I do have days where I do feel lonely, or like I'm craving interaction outside of, you know, my home. We don't see a lot of grandparents. Do you live close? Yes. We are very lucky to have pretty much all of our family in and around our area, and we do see them quite frequently. We're seeing someone who's like a grandparent or an aunt or somebody at least once a week, maybe even more than that, pretty frequently. And the kids have grown like a great relationship with them, and it's been, yeah, it's really, really sweet to see. We just don't always film that. We just don't always show that, because not everybody wants to be on camera. I sometimes feel awkward or uncomfortable like filming other people. I have been making a point lately to try and like take pictures on my phone of the kids with like their grandparents and family and stuff, because I'm realizing that like one day I'm gonna want to have pictures of them with these people that we love, and we want to like capture that. So even though I'm not like posting those pictures, I am trying my best to remember to just take little snapshots when we're all together. Why don't you sleep train? I did actually make a video all about this a while ago. It's probably like 2 years ago. I did sleep train Nova, actually. I did start with that, and then it really just didn't end up sitting with us because she had developed some like anxiety around bedtime because of it. And so we just decided one day that it just wasn't gonna work for us, and that's just kind of, that's, yeah, the basis of the story. But I'll link the video down below if you want like more of a detailed review of my experience. And right now I'm quite tired. The kids, you know, obviously Milo still wakes up in the night usually, and sometimes Nova, she's been kind of dropping her naps, like refusing her naps lately, and so I think that's like changing her sleep rhythm. And so she's been waking up in the night a little bit and like coming into our room, and so it's been a bit of a like a shuffle and stuff of trying to get the kids to sleep. I know it's just a season and we will sleep eventually. This is just, you know, it's just young kids. They just are unpredictable in that way, and we have coffee, thankfully. We're just kind of going with the flow with the girls, what feels best for them and for us. And so that might mean a little less sleep in the next year. But have you thought about quitting YouTube, social media, for the privacy of your kids? Yeah, every day I think about this. I think about this all the time, and I did talk about this in a recent video, so again, I'll link that. But I do think about this a lot because, of course, Nova's getting a bit older. It feels like a little more like she has her own life, and a life that, you know, deserves to have privacy. And so it is on the forefront of my mind a lot, and one of the reasons why I've been struggling a bit with creating content both here and with Instagram. There's several reasons, but that is definitely one of them. And so I'm just trying to kind of like go about it in the best way that I know how. And so, you know, I'm just trying not to force anything. Like, if she wants to be a part of the video, then I will. And if she, you know, is acting like she doesn't want to, or she says she doesn't want to, I'm definitely, you know, I just don't. And so sometimes you'll see her, and that's because she's like really wants to be a part of it, and sometimes you won't, and that's because she doesn't, she's in her own world playing or whatever. I think that there's going to be a bit of like a gradual shift into like what kind of content I am creating, and that might mean less of the kids, or less like in depth about the kids and more surface level of them. Like, not that you'll never see their faces again or anything, but just like keeping it, you know, but just knowing like the boundaries of like what to talk about and share and what not to. And I've always kept this really important to me. Like, I never show them like, you know, without clothes or anything like that. Like, absolutely hard no. I don't film like in our community, or like trying to keep, you know, as much private as possible when it comes to like safety reasons. I'm always thinking about that, because there have been a couple instances that have made me uncomfortable. I'm not sure at the moment what the direction is going to be, but it is definitely with the kids in mind as the forefront of my, you know, priorities. So rest assured, they are my top priority, their safety, and making sure that like what is on the internet is going to, you know, not reflect them in a negative way down the line. So it's just a constant, like every single day, every time you pick up the camera, every time you do the phone, every time you post, just keeping that in your mind at the very front. Like, is this something that they'll be okay with down the line? And, you know, maybe reevaluating every now and then, like, do I want to, maybe I'll step back a little bit more, step back. So it's going to be a bit of a process, and please be patient with me as I figure it out. On that note, Mila is awake, so I'm gonna go grab her and then we'll answer a couple more. Okay, we're joined by the cutest little hiccuper on the planet. But I'm just gonna answer, I think, maybe one more question, because I'm sure I've already talked for a long time. I think this question is fitting to be the last one. It's, being a mom of two is hard. How are you doing? First of all, thank you for asking. So sweet. I am doing pretty good. I think that the transition is starting to get, like, I'm starting to get a little bit more used to things, get the hang of things, and just overall knowing a little bit more what to expect, I suppose, in my like day-to-day. You are so hiccupy. Look at you. The hardest part I find of having two kids is when they both need you at the exact same time, when they both like need you. You know, for example, say Mila's hungry and is, you know, needs to be fed, needs to be nursed, and Nova has to go to the bathroom. So like at that moment, I'm like, I'm like a little overwhelmed. So that's just one example. Or there's like, they're both overtired and I'm trying to get one for a nap. Like oftentimes when I'm putting Mila down for a nap, you know, I have to find a way to occupy Nova, because if I don't, and that's often TV, because if I don't, she comes in the room and makes noise, you know, and there can be some big emotions about like wanting, you know, my attention in that moment and me not being able to give it. So those times are like the trickiest, when they both need you at the same time and you just like, you are only one person and you just can't. The other thing that can be hard is just like being the what is the word, what is the term, the default parent, I think that's what it is, or, and putting this in quotations, don't take this the wrong way, but the preferred parent. Not that I'm the better parent, but just oftentimes, you know, there is one parent out of the two that you know, is the one that is being asked to do things, and, you know, no, I want mommy to do it, no, mommy do it. So that comes up a lot, is like having a hard time because yeah, Caleb wants to help as much as possible, but it's not always, it doesn't always work that way. It's sometimes it's, you know, mom has to do everything, and so it's just kind of that stage that we're in of wanting mom to do it all. So it's balancing myself between the two of them and making sure that I am giving myself to both of them where I can, helping them both, but then when it becomes at the exact same time, that's when I'm like, oh wait, how do I do this? So that's probably the trickiest part, but we are getting our groove, aren't we, Mila girl? And I imagine it's just with anything, it just takes time. You get more used to it as you go. You figure out, you know, ways to make things work a bit more. Having Nova drop nap is like both difficult and easier, because it means like one less like nap time to try to like juggle and figure out, you know. It is partly good, but then it's also hard because she's very tired by the end of the day, and then things are crazy. So anyways, all of this to say, there are lots of little things throughout the day that are like, I'm like, yes, I'm you know, I'm rocking this, I'm doing this, I got this figured out. And then there are lots of moments where I'm like, oh, knock me down off my horse, and I'm like, yep, this is hard, I don't know what I'm doing, figuring it out as I go, doing our best. So I think that's where I'm going to end this video. Thank you for your questions. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed listening to some of my answers. There were definitely lots more questions that I didn't get to. If you aren't following me on Instagram already, definitely go do so, because you'll get to see just kind of more like real time, behind the scenes kind of stuff. So check me out at Ayla Sophia. So I'll see you guys in the next video.